All right. Anyone know what that is?
If you can tell us where we found it originally,
Yep. Okay.
allegedly,
Um.
respectfully,
Let's see.
Ly,
Questions. Here we go.
Pebbles,
Lazman, our
my
guy.
man,
He's family
Laz
now.
man.
He's family.
Yeah, you want us?
Your dad had a close business relationship with Jim Barnett and spoke very highly of him.
Yes.
How integral was he in your dad's career, and what are your thoughts on him? Cheers, mate. Keep up the good work, though. Thoughts on Jim Barnett?
He was the father of modern day wrestling. I mean, look at everyone who was under his learning tree. Uncle Mark, the Sheik, uh, Vern, Fritz, Vince McMahon Jr. I don't know if he would admit that now, but yeah, that he was integral in his career. Dusty, he touched the career of pretty much everybody who was anybody in the wrestling business from like when he first started being allowed to say things. Because the way he originally got involved was he was a magazine writer, and one day he was in the dressing room. Goes, could we maybe let him win? And they're like, okay, he's got an eye for talent. He had an incredible eye for talent. He was as integral in Dad's career as Uncle Mark or Bill Watts.
I do want to say though, I think the internet. I don't know how. I don't really like. I think they over. And I know growing up,
Was tight partners with Ole for a long time.
I just think maybe it's overdone a little bit on. Yeah. So, yeah.
I would have to think that a lot of it is overdone.
Yeah.
I mean, we have current people who are a family that continue to let you
I
believe
made him
that
mad. I made him mad.
that they created everything. I mean, I knew that Vince and them were the first ones to ever set up a ring or sell tickets or televise wrestling. I mean, I know it didn't exist before they came around, but somehow we managed to draw money. But no, he was tremendous. I mean, TBS, that was his doing. He got wrestling on Turner's first network, TCG. Then he got wrestling on TBS, and he brokered the deal that got Vince in there for the first WrestleMania run. TBS, that he had a lot to do with a lot of that. He was tremendously influential and a great character, but was had his was not always the happiest person, but he had a very difficult childhood, and but he was just was had a tremendous eye for wrestling, and he was. I mean, to my father and my mother, he was tremendously important. He was
Mom really,
him
and mom were
I mean,
close.
if people want to put Vince in the genius category, then Jim Barnett has got to be put in the
I
genius
wasn't
category
saying
too.
that. I was
But
just saying. I was saying they're all kind of overdone. Like they're all, like they're just normal people.
I mean, I know, but as far as his impact, yeah, it's as far reaching as anybody.
Yeah.
But as he was very, very close to Dad, tremendously so.
What with him and Mom? Like,
yes, very, very close friends with Mom.
Well, like, and he was also
he would always tell. He would come to pick Mom up, and they'd go riding in Jim's limousine over to the restaurant. And he looked at Mom and goes, "You're not really impressed by anything, are you?" Mom's like, "No, not really." But he flew Mom over to Australia, and he flew a couple of the ladies over there that he was really close with. Because if you were a troublemaker, if you were one of the girls that was a troublemaker, he didn't want you around. He'd say, "I don't want the fiancés in the crowd," because a lot of times guys would say, "Oh, I can't sell tonight, I can't lose tonight. My girlfriend's out in the crowd." It's like, well, then you won't be working here. And I mean, when Jim Herd, the genius that is Jim Herd, took over production of the television program on TBS, he didn't like interviews. He detested. Really? Oh, he hated interviews. So he was like, "Well, why do we got to have those?" And Dad was like, "What? What? The guy doesn't want us doing interviews. Does he not like my interviews?" And Jim looked at Dad. He goes, "My boy, your interviews are among some of the best. You don't use tired cliches like 'take that to the bank' and 'daddy.'" It was he was he was a wonderful man. He was great to my parents, and he made a lot of guys a lot of money.
Thank last man. Thank you. All right. Again, if you have any questions, anyone, please ask them. As I always say, we're running out of things to talk about. And even if you wanted to ask us about like the Montreal screw job,
do you want to talk about that? That's the second time you brought it up.
The NWO.
Okay, 30 years later, I mean, we can talk about that.
I'm just saying, like, or whatever, just anything to do with wrestling. Yeah. Let's see. Philip, 1086. He says, "It's good to see you. It's good to say you were sorry. It's good to see you say you were scared of these scary people." Yes, there's a lot of wrestlers I was afraid of. The Great Kabuki, Killer Tim Brooks. I was scared of Tim Brooks up until, I don't know, 34, 35 years old, something like that. Said your dad never seemed scared of anyone. Was he though? Question mark. Was there any loose cannons that he was actually afraid of, or is everyone afraid of everyone, or none of the above? I'm going to say it's definitely not none of the above. Was there any loose cannons that he was afraid of? Do you want to take this? I got one in mind. I remember he specifically said, and he loved him.
Go ahead.
But Dad said that he told Hawk of the Road Warriors personally. I don't know what had happened. Something in the dressing room, I'm guessing.
Because Hawk could go from, you would see the rainbow of emotions from him. He would go from crying incessantly to laughing hysterically to making you fear for your life the next.
Man, I was just watching YouTube yesterday for a quick side note on Hawk, and it was like, I guess right in the start of their great run with the Crockett's. I don't know if it was 85, 86. I'm not sure exactly when
they signed that contract for all that money.
But man, dude, he was making an interview, and dude, just his man. I mean, that guy. I mean, dude, man, he had it.
Yeah.
I mean, the look, the talk, man. So, anyways, so Dad said something. I forget.
I remember the story.
Okay, I just remember Dad said he looked at Hawk. He goes, "Hawk, you scare me sometimes." And I remember, and I could tell this was years ago when Dad told the story, but I could tell Dad meant it. Like Dad,
I remember.
Dad literally was scared of Hawk at a time.
I remember the story. Dad goes, I said to him, sometimes you have me scared to death. And then Hawk just goes, I'd kill anybody that came and tried to put their hands on you. Dad went, yeah, but sometimes you flip out.
Yeah, I don't.
But when Hawk passed, I went and told Dad. I said, Hawk died this morning. And Dad went, and he was like thoroughly dejected because Hawk was one of those guys that was like, he was just sort of, Dad goes, he was so full of life because he snacked on danger. He dined on death and don't make money. But the times I met him, he was a wonderful guy, but also had demons. But later in life, when he found the Lord, he, became a totally different person. But was for the times I met him, great guy. But then again, that was there, and this is true for Hawk. There used to be, depending on what was going on, when you get to the dressing room, it was like, what am I on? Who am I with? And what kind of mood talk in? That was those are the three questions you'd ask as soon as you got to the dressing room.
I remember
Paul Ellering could control him, and Dad would sometimes talk him in off the ledge, and he would look at Ellering and go, "I may have to charge you a service fee." And Paul would look at Dad and goes, "Maybe you can get through."
And then he says, was everyone afraid of everyone?
Okay, there's a few other guys.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
When Dad and Uncle Donald first got together. Yeah,
Uncle Donald.
They first got together. Yeah, I'm sure non-wrestling fans are watching us.
I know, but even somebody. Go ahead.
I mean, it's
I'm just saying, like someone.
This is a sort of a niche program.
I know, but there might be someone. I mean, out of the three people that are watching us,
a
fourth person might
already know.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I apologize unreservedly. Kevin Dunn, thank you for your influence on the wrestling business by making people think that anyone who watches wrestling has no clue of what anything is. Thank you so much for your continued contributions to the wrestling business. Now, back to guys that Dad was leery of. When Dad and Uncle Donald first got together, they had a little run with Lou Fez, and Dad used to do a lot. He would, like, before the plane crash, he was actually fairly mobile. He could get up and jump up and down. He would, wouldn't constantly interfere, but he made his presence known out there. First night out there, Dad was booked with Dad and Uncle Donald were booked with Lou Fez, and Dad did nothing. He stood in the corner. The very next night, Dad did nothing. Stood in the corner. Very next night, Dad did nothing. Stood in the corner. Fez came over to Dad. He goes, "Kid, can I ask you a question?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was told when I came in here to work with you guys that you did a lot of really good stuff. Why aren't you doing any of it?" Dad goes, "Well, Mr. Thez, I just didn't want to disrespect you. I didn't want to, didn't know if you were okay with it." He goes, "No, kid, go out there and do your stuff." Mm-hmm. And so then Dad would go out there. He would, like Jack with Lou, try to grab his foot through the rope, mess with his rope when he'd come in the ring. And everybody was amazed. Yeah. But it was only because Dad was that respectful towards him.
Right, and he knew Lou wasn't going to beat him up.
And there's one other guy when Dad and Uncle Donald first went to work in Oklahoma for Bill Watts, a guy named Danny Hodge, who was a champion boxer and wrestler. Dad went out there and cut a promo on Danny Hodge. And he said, "He's so punchy, I hear when his alarm clock goes off, he gets up and goes a few rounds with his wife." Hodge said, "Don't you ever say anything about my wife. And Dad went, dude, I'm just making interviews. Okay. And then Hodge came out one time when Dad and Uncle Don were making an interview. Dad and Uncle Don goes, I'll take care of him. And Dad steps back. Uncle Don took a step back with him.
Yeah.
So, but once they got cool with Danny, once he and Dad and Uncle Don went and did a job for him, he said, okay, these guys aren't here to disrespect me. So that was.
I would say, and was there any was there any loose or what he said, or is everyone afraid of everyone? I would guess, I don't know, but I would say legitimately throughout the years, 3 guys come to mind that people would have been afraid of in the dressing room. Other wrestlers would have been afraid of these
Hawk.
3 guys. Yes, I'm going to say Chris Adams legitimately would have intimidated grown men. The Iron Sheik, if he didn't like you, he would have been able to intimidate you. And I would say Scott Steiner. And I'm sure there's more.
But the baddest one, who didn't intimidate anyone, who was as nice as he could possibly be, Haku.
Yeah.
I mean, there were certain guys. There were certain guys that would intimidate if they could. But it was, but a lot of times, if you stood your ground, it would stop.
Right. So, thank you, Art Phillip. Good question. Got any more? Please send them. Ben Ho. Remember last week we said we were going to ask you your question. Here it is. Man, you have got to be, you got to be excited. He says, big fan of your dad and my all-time favorite manager. Thank you. The original 6-man tag team title Lumberjack strap match, Parade of Champions 86, had Kevin, Lance, and Kerry Von Erich versus the Freebirds. But shortly before Kevin was replaced with Steve Simpson due to injury. Lance eventually won the match for his team using the claw for the first time to a massive pop. Was taking Kevin out and replacing him with Steve Simpson done and eliminating Kerry early done to make sure Lance was given a signature win with the claw to solidify him as a main attraction? And was Steve Simpson inserted to give credibility since everyone leaving, all the talent leaving to the UWF was coming directly after the show?
They didn't know that was coming.
Okay. So first question.
Kev was hurt. His shoulder was messed up. It was his shoulder or his elbow. He couldn't go.
Was taking Kevin out and replacing him with Steve Simpson done and eliminating Kerry early done to make sure Lance was given a signature win with the claw? So,
because now let's keep in consideration when Ken Mantell was in love with that program because he was so intricate in its creation. So once he went back to do it the second time, which it never got over as strong the second time, that original match configuration was designed to be David, Kerry, and Kevin, Michael, Buddy, Terry. So by the time we get to 86, when it had already been beat beyond recognition, we now have Kerry, Kevin, and Lance. Now we take Kev out because Kev really can't go because his shoulder's hurt. And we got Kerry, Lance, and Steve Simpson. So this thing is now no longer what it's supposed to look like anymore. But no, they didn't know that everybody was leaving until TV the next day.
Well, so he asked,
did they? I mean, they just looked around with Steve Simpson and said, "Okay, decent-looking guy, second generation. Let's see if he's got anything."
But so taking Kevin out and replacing him with Steve Simpson, and then having Steve win or Lance win the match with the claw. I don't think that he was asking, was that done to like solidify Lance? I would,
it might have been.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I could see how. I mean, I don't know.
But Kev being out was because he worked with a concussion, so he really had to be messed up not to work.
I'd have to go back and watch this match, but so it came down to Steve and Lance, and they won it. I can kind of see that, let's give Lance the win, and him and Steve Simpson. But yeah, for those, I could kind of see that, like giving it. But yeah, but the Von Erichs. I mean,
the only way Lance. Kevin Von Erich don't work. Imagine if he's really hurt, like when we did the captain's match at the Cotton Bowl, and then we came back and did the 6-man. We had to replace him with Bobby Fulton because Kev was busted open.
Oh, really? Where was that at?
Cotton Bowl.
Oh, 84?
Yeah. Remember we came back when they did the 6-man belts?
Oh, yeah.
After that, because Kev was kind of laid up at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. And what?
Nothing.
And was Steve inserted to give him credibility since okay.
Possibly. They just looked around and said, okay, good looking guy, let's put him in.
Yeah.
But as far as the major plan being to give him credibility, no.
But like you said,
they didn't know
Ken Mantell was leaving, correct?
No,
And that everybody was going.
no. But
Okay.
but in all honesty, Fritz had suspected that for the last 2 years. For over 2 years, he suspected that into '83, beginning '84.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What did he tell you?
No, till dead.
I was joking. You would
Yeah.
have been 4
No,
or 5.
no, but that had been something that he had suspected was going to happen. And Fritz was very, very smart. He could, he was good with cattle and land. Very adept, astute businessman, even outside of wrestling. So he had a feel for things, and he knew that Brinks Armored Truck was coming. But Dad was brought back in to police that, and then a year later, after Fritz told Dad what he thought Ken was doing, Dad splits again because of Ken, and then about 9 months later, Ken does what Fritz has been thinking he's going to be doing for the last 2 years.
All right. So thank you, Ben Ho, for your question. Rick Knight, he writes, guys, what was Buzz Sawyer like? Also, did you ever meet Brett Sawyer? What was he like? Thanks.
Don't remember ever meeting Brett Wayne.
Mhm.
But I knew Buzz. We knew Buzz. We knew his wife, Julie. We knew his sons, Justin and Waylon. Waylon was like tremendously smart, like almost a Mensa member. And Justin was a pretty good amateur wrestler. Buzz was a wonderful guy. I know he has his detractors, but I always got along great with him. I always thought he was funny. And if people think that Buzz was, I know Buzz had problems with Hawk. He had problems with Kevin Von Erich. He had problems with Jim Duggan. He had problems with Arn Anderson. After a while, the common denominator in this is probably Buzz himself, but he was always very loyal and loving and respectful towards Ole, and always loving and very respectful towards Dad. And when he passed away, that bothered Ole a tremendous amount, and it also really bothered Dad. But I always liked Buzz, tough guy. And the only thing with Buzz is, and Matt Bourne said it best, Buzz loved to go out there and work. He loved going out there and doing it, but sometimes he would blow up and he would try to do something that he was too tired to be doing. So he might have been a little reckless at points in time, but he was a great guy, just had a problem. And I think that was an accidental thing. He wasn't finished with life. Just the drugs liked him too much. But Dad loved him, and I always thought he was cool. He was always very nice to me. And trained Taker. I'm sure Taker would like to know where his $5,500 went. I'm sure Perry Jackson. What's happening, AJ? They trained you boys underneath that tree somewhere in Grand Prairie. Not that far from here. If anyone ever comes around here, if I can find that tree that Taker and AJ got a suplex under by Buzz.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Action Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Who? Perry. I call him Perry.
Yeah, so if you call him Perry, you'd say who. But yeah, that's right. Yeah, he trained AJ.
Yeah, he trained Taker.
Yeah. Do you remember? There's a just quick side note, funny story about Dad. A wrestler who we're friends with, Chris Germany.
Yes.
It's
trained by Chris Adams. He was Chris Adams' favorite student next to Steve Austin.
So there was a funny story. We were talking about it today. That do we need to? You good? Okay. So Dad was running the Metroplex Arena.
Yes.
And Chris, if you're listening,
I know you're watching. Because you're going over your comedy routine. Stand in front of a brick wall. Do it.
So Dad was running the Metroplex Arena. This was in 1990 after great
WCW.
Yeah, after Dad and Great Muta, all that was over with.
After I quit.
He was running the Metroplex Arena here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Chris,
if you can find that, I'll give you something.
And so Chris Germany and I think a couple of his friends.
Yeah, Todd Overbo and a few of the other cats. Ed Robinson. I knew a few of those guys.
Yeah,
good guys.
They went and they tried to get booked with Dad. So they went to the back door of the Metroplex Arena.
Dad was already using Steve.
Dad was already.
Yeah, our dad was already using Steve Austin.
Okay. And they knock on the back door of the Metroplex Arena. And this just, and then so Dad opens the door and they're like, wow, Kerry Hart. And Chris goes, Mr. Hart, we were, something along the lines of, we were wondering if you would book us here.
We were trained by Chris Adams. We're his students. We just graduated from Chris Adams Wrestling Academy.
Yeah. And Dad said,
well, if Chris trained you, he needs to book you.
And then slammed the door. That was a funny story about Dad.
And little did Chris realize at that moment, as dejected as he was, some 7 years later, he'd end up working for Dad, and Dad would come to look at him Look at you.
Yeah. So Rick Knight, thank you
A
for your
long lost
question.
relative.
Thanks for your question. Okay. Last one. I don't know if we got a lot of.
And we love Chris Germany.
Russell Black
Yes.
says, "Hey guys, I was wondering what your dad ever told you about his time working with the Chicago outfit and collecting from the pinball, jukeboxes, cigarette machines, and pool tables and the other collection businesses he helped Tony Accardo's cousin with. I read in his book that was where he got the coat hanger gimmick that Abby and Uncle Marky used. I think it. Well, you got other people calling Uncle Marky.
Yes.
I think it was also why he had to leave Australia the first time he did it. I think it was also the reason he had to leave Australia the first time he did it to Mark on TV, and Barnett had to get rid of him or risk losing the spot on the network. He also said Billy Gales was worried about him catching a
Yes.
case or ending up dead, and it was a big part of sending him to Detroit with Burt Ruby.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all true. He
Did he ever tell us about his time working with Chicago outfit?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I never remember.
My uncle, who was a truck driver, was married to my aunt, my dad's oldest sister. That's how Dad ended up in Chicago. They had a basement apartment on Halstead, North Side, and Dad was with those gentlemen, and they went. And someone owed money on a cigarette machine or something, and Dad went and physically got the cigarette machine. Now, keep in mind, my uncle was also not only a truck driver, but he was also a volunteer patrolman. And my dad ended up taking this cigarette machine and putting it in the basement of this basement apartment, and he covered it up real nonchalantly. And my uncle, who's who's a volunteer patrolman in Chicago, sees this thing with legs underneath this blanket, and he pulls it back, and he sees the cigarette machine. He looks over at my dad. He goes, "I don't know, and I don't want to know, but this better be gone by tomorrow." And Dad goes, "Oh, it will be." And it was gone. But I mean, it's sort of like Dad's job with them was sort of like if you saw Rocky with Gazzo. That's kind of what it was like.
All right. So thank you, Russell Black, for your question. Please, if you have any questions, please send them to us. We're running out of things to talk about. And
my apologies to the McMahon family, Kevin Dunn, and anyone aligned with sports entertainment.
So you got to guess this theme song, if you know it.